Hey guys, Marine Corps veteran here. I served in OIF, Operation Iraqi Freedom. I returned from Camp Blue Diamond in 2005. Without even recognizing it, upon my return, I felt lost. I knew what I was doing with my life and I had direction, but I was disrupted in a way I could not explain. I really felt apart from or distant, detached from the rest of society. I struggled with many things, relationships, good friendships, knowing myself, risk-taking behaviors, even thoughts of suicide, and yeah, I had a plan. It was such a tough, shitty place to be. My memories of Iraq is just a place of constant turmoil in a combat setting. Those I served with were my friends, and we had good times, and we got to know each other pretty well. But, again, we were in a state of constant threat. Things were happening in our minds that nobody prepared us for, and we lost many other Marines during this deployment. The prolonged heightened awareness was hard, even on the mind of a Marine, all of us. Being home after that, I felt alone. It was as though I was not entitled to need help. Besides, getting help would mean admitting there was a problem or a weakness, and that's exactly what we were trained not to be, weak. It took me 7 years of pain, confusion, disappointment. I was disenrolled from the officer candidates program. I had bad grades in college courses and losing my dreams to finally receive an invitation to shift some of these feelings. Funny thing is, I didn't even know that option was upon me while it was happening. Here's how it went. I attended a class on natural stuff, natural alternatives, and thought it was such a cool option to be able to avoid toxins. I had had several rounds of the MMR and also 3 of the 6 Thrax shots, let alone who knows what else, and I'm sure you experienced something similar. I knew my body wasn't right, and I also knew that contaminating it with over-the-counter synthetic stuff was not going to be a good idea. At the class, they presented essential oils, and they talked about how these things could be used as a natural way to manage symptoms of illness. I dove right in. I wasn't thinking about my undiagnosed CSD. I was not thinking about my problems, though hindsight reveals it was truly a gift to have went to this class. The first thing I used the oils for was my dog's eye infection, and they worked. So then I used them for my sleep problems and ankle pain. I used them for my neck strain and so on, right? We all have those physical ailments from our enlistments, right? I soon began to feel that the oils were affecting my mood and my feelings. I was a lot less uptight, and I realized that the oils were doing something to my mind, something that was very good. It was like this. I was in so much pain and so confused about what had happened years prior that I just allowed any relief I could get to come. I think that is why many Marines and soldiers fall into post-deployment or post-combat drinking. We just need a break from the constant brain strain. That's an interesting thing to call it, brain strain. And I had had my share of drinks too. So after about a year of smelling these smells, I became willing to seek treatment through the VA. I knew it could maybe help, and at this point I was exhausted by the constant strain of the post-combat lifestyle that I needed a break. I believe the essential oils shifted me into a place where I could see hope. I could have a chance to heal maybe. They had taken the edge off for long enough that I was ready for the next step. I knew that therapy at the VA would require talking, and I would be vulnerable, just like this video I'm doing here for y'all. This is quite challenging. And that's why I and so many Marines avoid therapy for so long, right? Tell me if you agree. Are you a soldier, a sailor, or a Marine who just really doesn't think it's anyone's business what went on during your deployment? Or have you felt like nobody will understand what you went through in a combat zone, where random mortar rounds killed your friends, or that killing an enemy was widely accepted even when we didn't really know who the enemy might be? Yeah, that's a real point of contention for many combat veterans, isn't it? Makes me think of the stories I've heard from Vietnam veterans and the stress and strain of those war heroes. Getting treatment at the VA was a harder reality than I thought, but I had a tool. It was the essential oils. Mysteriously, they took the edge off and really supported me through cognitive processing, which was the method my therapist was using. We sorted through many occurrences while bringing unrealistic experiences into a place of reality. However, walking out of every session was so indescribable. It left a feeling of emptiness, a feeling of, what is all this for? It was a feeling of why. But let me tell you, my drive home after those sessions was only possible because of those little bottles of oils. I debated taking a break from therapy. I considered quitting. I was a rule breaker, but here I was for once following the rules. But the rules were not working for me. Those therapy sessions only would require more therapy. I was given homework, and that meant I had to sit down and process things alone. Not gonna happen. But with these crazy little bottles of oils, I at least tried. And therapy was tough. The anxious feelings, the crushing on my heart, the tightness around my throat, it all made it worth not continuing. But if I didn't continue, then what? Would I continue risky behavior and drinking? And could I end up being one of the 22? This is the moment, the place in my story where I tell you the oils saved my life. Somehow they encouraged me to stay in the fight. I continued my therapy sessions, and I continued using the essential oils. So my story of aloneness, ups and downs, therapy, failed dreams, it continues. But one thing that held my hand through it all, even though I was alone, was the essential oils. They did something. They let me breathe when the only thing I could do was hold my breath. See, at some point I realized this. Even with all the coping skills learned through my therapy, those combat zone experiences were something that I would have the rest of my life. Forever trying to make sense of the things seen and done. An experience that few will ever walk with. It's a numbing experience, isn't it? A numbing experience that usually numbs you for a long time. But I wanted to breathe and I wanted to feel. Let me tell you something. My husband is also an OIF veteran. He did 3 tours in Iraq. When our son was born, we both, embarrassingly enough, felt nothing. We loved him and we were happy to have him, but really, we recognized that we needed and wanted to feel again. I'm brand new here on YouTube, even though I've been teaching about natural ways for a long time. I'm ready to share my story of post-combat life. So like, subscribe, follow, whatever they say here on YouTube. And look for part 2 to learn more about my post-combat life management. And one last thing. If you're struggling, read the description below. But know this. You may feel alone, but we stand alone together. And truly know that you are never alone.